Now, next we'll look into the geographical framework. When we look into the geographical framework, it is very, very important because it actually helps in shaping of history. Without knowing geography, we cannot imagine to understand where the human civilization has started living and where they have gone, how they have developed, the new kind of culture. So this is very important. Now, if I'll say that the history of India, I'm drawing here just a rough map of India. This is just a rough map. Okay. So when we look into here, this as we know this, that this part is the great Himalayan part, Himalaya zone. This part, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, this part is known as Gangetic Plain. Gangetic Plains, because this area is settled, the land is settled near Ganga River, which is very, very important source for the agriculture purpose. And due to this reason, the land is very, very fertile. And this area of the entire country is the most fertile area, most fertile area, having most productive soil, due to which the maximum number of population is settled down here. This is the Gangetic Plain. This is known as the we call this portion as Deccan also, the central part, Deccan also, Deccan, as well as Southern Peninsula. Southern Peninsula will cover this part, Southern Peninsula. This part is desert. And this part, eastern part, we know this part as a, the area with densely forested areas. So this is the eastern part. Although this in the eastern part also we saw there is a good source of water, which is the Brahmaputra River, and due to which the agriculture work or the the production work goes in a very good way. And the eastern part of India is a very good for tea plantation, coffee plantation. So when we look into the eastern part, it is also good for the plantations. And it is green because the maximum number of rainfall throughout the India is received in the eastern part. So Indo-Gangetic, we saw the emergence of first kingdoms, or we can say small kingdoms, the settlement, human settlement of kingdoms or empires, that was all in this area, Indo-Gangetic. Southern Peninsula, as I told you, it is here. There is a Deccan. This is the plateau. There are so many plateaus where the kings got settled up and they become very powerful. And northern kingdoms were not able to attack over them because they were very powerful. So this was that. And this part is always, a little bit deserted because of the climatic condition, basically. And in the medieval part, if I will talk about ancient, there was, the population was less. But if we will look into the medieval part, the Rajputs got settled down into this area. And when we look into the coastal areas of India today, these areas were involved and engaged in the trading activities with the Africa and the East Asian countries. So this was about the geographical framework through which we got to know lots and lots of things about the past, lots and lots of things. It's just an example. If we will look into the coastal line, through geography, we understand that here it is Arabian Sea, here it is Bay of Bengal, and downwards there is Indian Ocean. So in the three sides, it is completely ocean, and that is why we are calling it as a peninsula. Now, peninsula is a place, is a landmass which is covered three sides from the water. That is why we are calling it as a peninsula. So this is the geographical framework through which we got to know about the history. Now let's understand about the earliest societies. When we look into the earliest societies, earlier human being was hunter-gatherer, completely hunter-gatherer. The people used to hunt the animals, gather fruits. So it was a long journey. Earlier they were hunter-gatherers. Slowly they have started domesticating animals. Then slowly they came into domestication of plant, agriculture. So very slowly human being has evolved, their culture got evolved. They used to live in a very they used to move from one place to another place. They were not having any settled life. They used to live in a shelter. And like water, they always move around the water sources. And the tools, early human being has started using tools. Although in the very earliest part, human beings were not having good grip of the hands. Slowly they they developed that grip also, and after developing that grip, human being has started making tools for themselves. And like that, the factory sites basically are those sites in history where we got the evidences of tools. Evidences of tools means the sites where human beings used to make their tools, because factory sites and their living sites rarely were similar. Usually factory sites were different, and the places where they used to live, those places were different. So these are the about the early society. And now from hunter gatherer, this is what we are going to understand this year, from how from hunter gatherer human being has settled up, how the civilization was settled up. Kingdoms were made, empires were made, and after that you see country, the concept of country has come up. So these all things we are going to deal and understand or study in history. But for this year specifically, we will understand that how human civilization has started, how the empire got started, and how the kingdoms got started. So these things we are going to understand in this year. When we look into the ages, different ages, the early history, like as I was telling you, history got divided into broadly 3 categories. That is ancient, medieval, and modern. So ancient, I am talking about ancient time period. Ancient means old, medieval means middle, 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 and modern means new. So these are 3 categorization of history. Class 6 you will cover this part, class 7 you will cover this part, and class 8 you will cover this part. Now when we look into ancient history, this part of history is covering maximum span of time, means lakhs years are coming under this category. Why historians have divided history into 3 parts? Because it is not easy to understand history in one go. So that is why categorization is required. Now when we look into ancient history is also having so many categories. When we look into the main and the earliest part of history, it got divided into 3 parts. That is Paleolithic age, Mesolithic age, and Neolithic age. So how these ages got divided? These ages got divided on the basis of tools, stone tools. Earlier human being used to make stone tools. So stone tools in the Paleolithic part, the old one, the stone tools were not that much sharp or perfect. So that is the oldest part. In the Mesolithic time, it was better than the Paleolithic one. In the Neolithic, the human being were they were able to make tools more sharper, more defined, precised. And Neolithic time period is also considered as the revolutionary time period, revolutionary age, stone age, Why? Because during this time period only, human being has actually discovered agriculture. So in the Paleolithic part, human being has already become a stone tool maker. They have already discovered the fire. But the main discovery of agriculture has been categorized under Neolithic age. So this was about the different ages of the early societies, early people. Now, when we look into the sources of history, the sources of history has broadly categorized into two parts. That is literary history and archaeological history. What is literary and what is archaeological history? Literary history means the history which we found in a written form, in a writing. And archaeological history is that part of history which is in a object form or in a materialistic form. So when we look into literary history, we saw manuscripts. Manuscripts means earlier people used to write through natural colors on a leaves or the basically bark of birch tree. So they used to write over those, thin layers through natural colors. And there were inscriptions. Now, what are inscriptions? Inscriptions are written on the walls or on any hard subject. If you will visit any of the monumental sites, you will see there is a signboard of Archaeological Survey of India, ASI. That is also a part of inscription that we can consider as an inscription. If you will go to a temple, if you will go to any monumental site, you will see that the carved writings are there on the wall. That is what we call as inscription. There are the literary sources again got diversified into three different parts, that is religious, secular, and foreign travelers. Now, these are manuscripts and inscription. This is the part of history. Manuscripts are very, very old, like our Vedas, and these things are written over manuscripts only, right? That is the the material on which they have written, that I have mentioned. Inscription also I have mentioned, that on the hard surface, whether it is a wall, it is a copper plate, it is a wood, or it is a stone. So carving out the letters and writing, that was on the hard surface. That is what we are calling as inscriptions. Now, proper writing got divided into two categories, that what kind of writings were there. This I had told, the material. Now, what I'm saying is the content. What was there in the writing? First is religious. Religious means the writings which are written for the religious purpose, like our Vedas, Upanishads, and there are so many other like Smritis. These are old religious texts through where we got to know about the religion of that time, beliefs of that time, Mahabharata, Ramayana. These are all religious writings. Then we have a secular writing. Now, what is the meaning of secular? Writing which are not religious. Those writings are called secular writing, like the writings of any poem, plays, or as I have mentioned about the Kautilya Chanakya, the polity book, that is not part of religious. So we consider it as a secular writing. So like Dharma Shastras, the law book about the society, the Kautilya's Arthashastra. Then there is a Kalidas, famous work of Shakuntalam, Abhijanjan Shakuntalam. Then we have, Panchatantra. So these kind of books come under the secular writing, where the content is not religious, but it is related to the society in different context. Then we have a foreign travelers writing. Now, what are these foreign travelers writing? Earlier in the ancient time also, when human being has started settling up, during that time, people from different continents, they have started exploring the new areas. So during that time, Europeans didn't came to India, but people from Asian continent have started, exploring new places. So during the time period of ancient India, there were people from China, and even in Europe. If we will look into the Europe, that only one evidence which we got, that was the Greek ambassador Megasthenes. Very important. Greek ambassador Megasthenes visited to India during the time period of Chandragupta Maurya. So that he was a foreigner who visited India, and he has written a book, Indica, called Indica, on over which he has mentioned about the Mauryan Empire, about the society of that time. So that is what we call as foreign travelers writing. And the same similar case, there was one Chinese pilgrim who visited India during the time period of ancient period. So his writing is also known as foreign traveler writings, because the people are foreigner, they are not the natives of India, they came from different parts of the world, and they visited here, they explored this place and written about the society. So this was about the foreign travelers writing. Now when we look into the archaeological source, now what are the archaeological source? As archaeological source are something which refer to material evidences, which I just told you, that like, any object, any monument. First of all, one thing I would like to clear here, that every building, even which is made few years back, is not a part of monument. Monuments means those historical buildings which has covered 100 years. After that only we call that structure as a monument. And this is the reason why we do not call India Gate, which is presently in New Delhi, as monument, because India Gate, the time span of construction means the time when it was constructed until the time we are living today, we have not covered 100 years. Once we will cover 100 years, after that the structure basically will be considered as monument. So now let's look into one more important aspect of archaeological sources, that is archaeologist. Now, what is archaeological sources? Archaeological sources, material remains which are in object form or structure. Now, who are these archaeologists? Archaeologists are people who used to research or find out about the objects which they got from the digging out of the soil. So what is their main work? That after digging out of the soil, they found the materials belonging to different time period. So they have to do chemical analysis over those objects, and they have to find out about the subject, about that time period, about the ruler, and so whatever information they will get. So that is the work of archaeologist. Archaeologist is the person who actually do the archaeology or dig into the ground and solve many mysteries of the past by carefully studying them. Now, let's see the first archaeological sources, that is the coins. Coins are very, very important source, and coins in the earlier times were made up of gold, copper, silver. First coin which was made was of the silver coin, and there were after that we saw the copper coins, we saw the gold coins, and the coins, basically why it is important, although it is an object, what we can understand through the object. If we will look into today's coin, 1 rupee, you can see the year is mentioned. You can see the logo is mentioned. Through that, you can understand about the time period, about the present scenario. And in the earlier times also, the ruler used to mention their names. They used to mention their ruling time period. They used to even try to, give the kind of carving of their own faces, a structure. And sometimes we saw in the coins the images of God, which rulers used to devote. So through coins, we got to know about many things, about the rulers' names, rulers' ruling time period, and the metal which is there in the coin, out of which the coin has been prepared. Like if it is gold, if it is copper, if it is silver, clearly what it indicates. If we found the gold coin, what will it indicate? It indicates that the kingdom or the empire was prosperous. They were having very good wealth. That is why they have circulated gold coins. And if we have found iron coins, what does that indicate? It indicates that the financial condition of the empire was not so good. So we got to know economical aspect, we got to know political aspect, we got to know even social aspect. Like if we have found the coin from the northern part of India, and if we will found the coin, similar coin from the southern part of India, and the coin belongs to the empire in the northern part, what does it indicate? That there must be having some trading relation. So that is why, or it can be also indicated as that the maybe the region or the empire was stretched till southern part of India. So that is the work of archaeologists who find out about it. Then there are tools, implements. Through tools and implements, we got to know that how the early humans actually made tools, and what kind of tools were used. What after those things, we will understand that what exactly they used to do from that specific tools. So through tools also, we got to know that earlier humans were using stone tools, then they have started using copper tools, then bronze tools, then iron tools. Like that is, it goes on. Then we got to know about the artifacts. Now, what are these artifacts? Artifacts are anything which was man-made object. Man-made object as a thing, as in here we will categorize like paintings, sculptures, terracottas. These all things comes under the artifacts. Even the toys of those time, utensils of those time, these are all man-made object. So these man-made object will come under the category of artifacts. Then we have monuments. Now, what are these monuments? Monuments, the buildings which has covered 100 years, as I have already mentioned, those are all considered as monuments. Now, monuments, the structures include mostly temples. We have mosques, we have palaces, we have churches, we have forts, we have tombs, we have stupas, number of things. Even we have excavated the entire civilization like Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, we have seen Takshila, we have seen Sangol. These are all, we have found the civilizations, we have found the entire society structure, we have found the entire like universities from the archaeological, from digging out of the soil. So these are all monuments which we found from history or from the past, and these give very, very important information about the time. So that's all for the introduction part of the history. Thank you so much.